Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. If anyone's out there, not sure if anyone's out there. We're gonna do attempt this link. There we go. So that way, maybe for the people who are having an issue with this show, maybe the link that I just sent them will work. Hopefully, because I know we've been having lots of issues with this stuff, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through and talking all about Disney's Animal Kingdom today. Hello, Alex. How's the weather up by you? Because I've heard that it's bad up there, but I've not had anything down here. Like I've had like a few raindrops. That's about it. So hopefully everything's going well for you guys up there. Hello, everyone. Hi, love pugs. Love pugs. Love pugs like love bug. I'm very upset because I misplaced the book that I wanted to show tonight. I literally spent the last like 15-20 minutes looking for this book. Hola. With absolutely no luck whatsoever. But I have a book that is the original Disney's Animal Kingdom book from 1997. Like literally from the year before Disney's Animal Kingdom opened up. And it is a look at the construction of Disney's Animal Kingdom by the Imagineers in preparation of Disney's Animal Kingdom. And I bought it, or I had someone actually out there, one of you guys had it, and mailed it to me years ago. It's one of my favorite books. And I usually have it in that corner over there, but I know that I read it not that long ago. And so I probably just put it onto a different shelf, and I just don't remember which shelf I put it on because I got bookshelf, 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 bookshelf. I've got to look at bookshelves in here. Eric, it's working for you. Is that link actually working? Wait a minute. Eric's one of the people who's not been able to get on the show for the last like month or 2 months. Holy cow. This is exciting, people. All right, so today we're going to be talking all about Disney's Animal Kingdom. We're going to be going through like the history of Disney's Animal Kingdom. So if you guys have any questions about Disney's Animal Kingdom, start throwing them in the comments below. That's apparently how people type. Start throwing them in the comments below. And we're going to be going through kind of talking about the history. It's going to be a very casual conversation like we usually do, where you guys are going to be throwing your questions out, and I'm going to be doing my best to answer as many questions as possible about Disney's Animal Kingdom today. We'll start off with some of the stuff from the 25th anniversary. That was just the other day as well. I've got the stuff that I purchased for myself here as well. So let's get this party started. We are going to start the 714th episode of the Wednesday show in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 714th episode of the Wednesday show. Today is April 26th, 2023, and I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today, we're going to be going through and talking about the 25 years of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary this past Saturday. But, of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, thank you, everyone who's been joining us for our Saturday in the park. If you don't already know, every single Saturday right here on my YouTube channel, we do a live broadcast from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure you join us every single Saturday. I don't know where we're going to be this week, but I guarantee we're going to be someplace on Disney, so make sure you join us for all the fun over there. This past Saturday was Disney's Animal Kingdom. We did a broadcast from Festival of the Lion King. So this week, I think I might be at Animal Kingdom again on Saturday. I've got my reservation. I just can't remember if I'm there or at Epcot. I know that I've got Epcot on one day and Animal Kingdom on the other day, and then the other one's it's Saturday and Sunday. One of them's Epcot, one of them's Animal Kingdom. Can't remember which one's which. So make sure you join us on Saturday as we go through on that. Also, if you have not been paying attention, every single day over on my YouTube channel, we do a brand new Disney video. Make sure you join us every single Saturday, or not every Saturday, every single day. For those brand new Disney related videos. Also, we have different Disney shorts as well. And as always, let's go through. We're going to try to figure out what our current subscriber count is. If we go into higher subscribers as we go through here, we will go into extra innings today. We have a palindrome. So the numbers go forward and backwards. 2772, or if you read it backwards, 2772. 2,772 subscribers right now. If we continue going up as the show goes on here, we will go into extra innings and go into more discussion about Disney's Animal Kingdom, or we'll also go into more conversation about Disney too. If we get past that 10:30 spot, it all comes down to how many subscribers we have by the end. So keep on throwing your friends over here as well. And of course, as always, tonight's episode is, as always, sponsored by It's All About the Mouse Travel Jazz Hands. Make sure you stop by it'sallaboutthemousetravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All their services are absolutely, positively, 100%ly free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. Okay, now let's start off with Disney's Animal Kingdom, the 25th anniversary. So for those of you who didn't know, Disney's Animal Kingdom opened up on April 22nd, 1998. So 25 years and 4 days ago, 4 days ago. A few of the different things that I had talked about on Saturday and kind of went through in my video on YouTube on Sunday, a lot of people were kind of asking me different things about Disney's Animal Kingdom and how they're kind of confused about some of the timeline for Disney's Animal Kingdom. So we're going to be going through a lot of that because the history of Disney's Animal Kingdom is one of the craziest histories of any theme park, not just a Disney theme park, but any Disney, or any, not, then I started saying Disney again, any theme park in the world. Not a lot of different theme parks will go through the same kind of history that Disney's Animal Kingdom went through. Literally like 33 years of history to get to where we are today. But this past Saturday was the 25th anniversary. So before we get into the history and going through your questions out there, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we got during the actual anniversary. First off, we have a guide map. Ooh. Now, first off, fun fact about the guide maps. There was not actually a Disney's Animal Kingdom guide map on opening day. It came out a few days later, but I'm sorry. Wait, no, let me reverse that. There was one on opening day. During the previews, they decided they're not going to give anyone maps because they figured this is going to be the first theme park ever to not need a map, because they wanted to have it so the guests would actually go out and explore on their own and have it so they were going on their very own adventure. But enough people went to guest relations after they could find guest relations and complained about the fact that they had no idea where they were going, and they took that into consideration, and then they had a map around on opening day in preparation for the actual park. So on the 25th anniversary, we did get this handy dandy map. Now, this is not your ordinary map. It's actually not a typical paper map like usual. It's a completely different texture because obviously it's Disney's Animal Kingdom, and it's a more recyclable texture than what you're used to when you go to the park. So when you actually open it up, inside we have the list of things that would actually occur on the 25th anniversary. But we also have at the top here, 25 years of innovation and conservation. For the past 25 years, Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park has welcomed guests from around the world to experience the magic of nature and celebrate the power in each of us to protect this beautiful diversity of life on our planet. Walt Disney himself said that conservation isn't just the business of a few people, it's a matter that concerns us all. As we embark on the next 25 years, we will continue to find inspiration in the wonders of the world we share and take action to support a healthier planet for people and wildlife around the globe. That includes reducing our environmental footprint, caring for wildlife and their habitats, and creating stories that inspire action, all part of the commitment we call Disney Planet Possible. So going through there, they had it so there was a celebration at 8:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, I had worked until like 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday, so I missed that part. But they also had some they had different treats that you could find over around the park. I did not try any of these because I just wasn't really in the mood for any of them. But I did check out the merchandise. So the big item that everyone had to get, and it was a pain for me to get, was the Pumbaa popcorn bucket. Look at him. There was also going to be a Timon sipper. The Timon sipper did not show up yet, so it was just the Pumbaa popcorn bucket that was being sold that day. It is a massive, massive popcorn bucket. It probably holds more popcorn than any other popcorn bucket I've ever seen in my entire life. But this is going to be the Pumbaa popcorn bucket. On the side of it, it does say, wait a minute. It says Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. And then it also says, Disney's Animal Kingdom 25th anniversary. So very, very cool. This was the only one that I was going through and waited in line forever for. So I went to every single popcorn stand. Every popcorn stand was completely sold out. And they said, don't worry, we're trying to get more. We're just not sure when we're going to get them. But people are heading off to go get them right now. And right when I was leaving the park, they had some. And they said this is going to be the only spot you can get it, right over near the exit of the park. And there was a line that I waited for 35 minutes for this popcorn bucket. But well worth it, because I have way too many popcorn buckets. But, you know, you need more. I say that, and like literally right next to that is the Simba one. Then we got the Figment one right there, and then we got, you know, this one right here, and so many popcorn buckets. And I dropped a popcorn bucket, and then we got Mr. Toad's Wild. A lot of popcorn buckets, kind of scattered around here at my condo. But that was the big item, was the Pumbaa popcorn bucket. Desperately needed it. Very, very happy with it. In addition to that, there were a few different items that I got. I'm not a big pin person. However, there were 2 pins that I wanted to get. One of them was the day of pin, so you could only get this actually on the 25th anniversary. So it says Alive with Magic 25, Disney's Animal Kingdom. And then up in the tree, you can see like Carnotaurus, you can see the Yeti, Kevin, Nemo, and Dory, and then of course Mickey there as well. And then the other one I decided to get, I almost walked out without it, and I was like, you know what? I do love Kilimanjaro Safaris. It's been around since the park opened, and this is a pin celebrating 25 years of Kilimanjaro Safaris. So they had pins for all of the different attractions that were around since opening day. In addition to those 2 pins, I also got myself a lovely Christmas ornament, and I'm extremely happy about this Christmas ornament, to the point where I've looked at it so many times because I just think it's one of the coolest Christmas ornaments. It's completely carved out of wood. Again, it's the logo, the 25 years, and then we've got a lion there, rhinoceros. I don't know who says rhinoceros. It's a rhino. You got a Yeti there, elephant, tiger, the Carnotaurus right in the middle, Nemo and Dory, the giraffe, and then at the top there it says Alive with Magic. On the right, or I'm sorry, on the left-hand side we've got Kevin as well next to Nemo and Dory. So lots of really, really cool things there as well. I think it's just such a cool little logo. And then the final thing that I ended up getting during that day was the shirt that was only sold that day, the 25th anniversary. I was their shirt. So there it says 25th anniversary, April 22nd, 2023. On the back, it says Alive with Magic. So overall, really, really cool. I made sure that during that day, I went through and I did some of the opening day attractions. And to do the opening day attractions, let's do some trivia. Because obviously, it's not just the show and tell episode. We're going to be talking all about everything with the 25 years anniversary of Animal Kingdom. So we'll go through, we'll do a few trivia questions, and then we're going to go to some of your questions. I see one trivia question, and that's, or one question out there. So let's go do our trivia. Oh, one last thing I got. The mug. 25th anniversary mug. It's wood at the bottom. I haven't taken the price tag off yet. Wood at the bottom there. And then all around it, it's like all the different animals. Really, really cool. I love Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom is my second favorite park after Magic Kingdom. Okay, so let's do some trivia. We're going to start off the trivia with opening day attractions. And we're going to kind of go through and kind of do the history of the park. So what we'll do is we'll do 2 or 3 trivia questions. We're going to go to some questions in the comments. Then we'll do a few more trivia questions, go to a few more questions in the comments, etc., etc., etc. So let's start us off with some opening day trivia questions. Okay, question number 1. So there are currently there's a few different attractions that are still found from opening day here at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Let's start off with the first trivia question about them. What is the attraction that is based on a movie that would not be released until later the same year? So it's not like things like Pirates of the Caribbean where the attraction was first and then it inspired a movie, but they were actually working on a movie. And because they were working on the movie and then they started working on Animal Kingdom, they said, you know what, maybe what we should do is we should have it so there is a movie based or a attraction based off this movie. And I see someone in the comments with it, a Bug's Life, or It's Tough to Be a Bug. It's Tough to Be a Bug would open up with the park on April 22nd, 1998. And then the film A Bug's Life would come out later on that year. This would be the second time in Disney history where an attraction came out before the actual movie that was being worked on already would come out. The first one would be Sleeping Beauty Castle before Sleeping Beauty in 1955, and then in 1959 is when Sleeping Beauty actually came out. Sleeping Beauty was being worked on for 9 years, which I think is just insane when you think about it now. Okay, let's go to our next trivia question. This is the only opening day attraction that's still around today that is in a different location than where it was on opening day. Does that make sense? This attraction is the only attraction at Disney's Animal Kingdom that is still around since opening day, but is in a different location than where it was on opening day. Hopefully that makes sense. You could actually do this question for Magic Kingdom too. For Magic Kingdom, it would be Dumbo. Dumbo originally was located behind the carousel. Now it's located not behind the carousel. It's found over at New Fantasyland. But that's not the question we're doing right now. The question is about Disney's Animal Kingdom. I feel like we might have lost the comments. Dinosaur is not correct. Dinosaur is not correct. Dinosaur would be an opening day attraction, but under a different name, but it's not Dinosaur. Festival of the Lion King is correct. So Festival of the Lion King originally debuted at Camp Mini Mickey and then would make its way over to Africa when they went through a huge thing. All right, let's go to a few questions that are in the comments, and then we're going to go through a few more trivia questions here, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of how Disney's Animal Kingdom kind of came about. I like this question a lot. Top 3 carvings on the Tree of Life. Okay, so number 1 for me is the elephant, and not the elephant that I had in one of my videos recently. I did a walking tour of the Tree of Life, the back corner of the Tree of Life near the exit of Tough to Be Bugged. I had that one come out just this past week. I want to say, I think it might have been the 20th. I think it was 2 days before, maybe just the day before Disney's Animal Kingdom's anniversary. But if you're in the front section of the Tree of Life with main entrance behind you, you can only kind of see it from right below where you are. But if you're on the Tree of Life Gardens, kind of, right at the base of the Tree of Life, and you look up on the right-hand side, there is one branch that if you look at it, you can just see, like, it doesn't look like a normal branch. It looks like a giant log with a bunch of different carvings in it to give it a little bit of texture, but only on the one side. And that's because it's actually the bottom of a trunk of an elephant. So if you follow it down, you can kind of see the head, but not a whole lot. But if you continue following it down, you can see that part of its leg comes down and is towards the bottom right part of the Tree of Life. And then if you follow the other part, you can see the back leg on the bottom left part. So almost the entire front part of the Tree of Life is actually the body of this massive elephant, and it's going up to the very top. It's one of my favorite hidden Mickey, or not my hidden Mickeys, one of my favorite little details that is found on the Tree of Life. I just think it's so cool. Every single time I see it, I think it's really cool. Number 2, I would probably give to the owl that is found on the backside of the Tree of Life, kind of looking out towards Africa. You can see it really well if you're on the path between Africa and Asia. There is this really cool owl. He's very, very complex, very, very detailed. And then number 3, it's really difficult to see right now because there's a lot of trees that have grown up over it, but it is a bear, and it's like a very textured bear, and he's fishing. Like, there's all this different fish, and he's grabbing for the different fish. And I think it's just one of the coolest carvings that you can actually find. But let's throw in a bonus one because I love the bonus one. And we have to talk about this every single time we talk about Disney's Animal Kingdom and the history of Disney's Animal Kingdom, because there is a very cool story about the Tree of Life. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Tree of Life to kind of get to this point of the Tree of Life. So Disney's Animal Kingdom first kind of came around with the idea of Disneyland back in 1955. So back in 1955, Walt Disney was creating the Jungle Cruise, and with the Jungle Cruise, he wanted to have real live animals. That just wasn't possible. They said you can't have it so you have these animals in the same exact spot and have it so people will just kind of go by and they'll, it just doesn't make any sense. So they said, no, we're not going to do this idea of, a live actual animal show. As time would go on, they would keep on exploring the idea of animals, and at the same time, the Disney studio would be going through and actually working with animals in all different shapes and sizes. Even way back in the early 1940s, Walt Disney would actually bring live deer in for the animators to actually animate. So he always had a special connection with animals. Now, it eventually, in the early 1990s, would come to Roy Disney, not Roy O. Disney, but Roy E. Disney, Roy O. Disney's son, aka Walt Disney's nephew. So Roy E. Disney would go through and he would actually say, hey, my uncle was always a huge fan of conservation, of animals, and different things like that. Maybe we can kind of go forward with an idea of having a theme park about animals. This was his idea back in the 1950s. Maybe we can actually make it come to be. So how it kind of came to be is just kind of a crazy turn of events. So first off, they went through all the different Imagineers and they said, who wants to be the person who takes charge with this project? And a lot of people did not step forward because they thought it was just going to be an epic failure. And one of the Imagineers who just wasn't that well known at that point, he had done some projects up to that point, but not a ton. He stepped forward because he was a huge fan of animals, a huge fan of travel, a huge fan of conservation, and his name, of course, is Joe Rohde. Joe Rohde would become a not very known Imagineer to one of the most well-known Imagineers of all time, mainly due to the fact that he took on Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now, when they were going through and creating Disney's Animal Kingdom, one of the big things that they started to go through was they weren't exactly sure how to go about the idea of creating this brand new theme park focused around animals without having anyone else kind of backing them up. And the main thing they wanted to do is have it so they could be accredited as a zoo, even though their original slogan was not a zoo, which I always think is the greatest tagline of ever. But they wanted to have it so not the zoo would actually be a zoo. And so they actually had to get credentials and have it so they could bring in the label of actually being an actual working zoo. So people would actually go there and have it so they knew that they were treating the animals with all the respect and giving them the proper care that they actually needed to be. So they contacted a lot of different people, and one person actually came to their aid and said, you know what, I will help you get this thing started. However, I cannot work specifically with you. And this person came on and started to give them all the different contacts for people all around the country who also worked with animals. Eventually, they had so many popular people backing them up that eventually it became a massive success. Now, this kind of goes to, we're going to get to Animal or the Tree of Life again, but don't worry, we're going to here. I read Disney brought in Jane Goodall to help with the chimpanzees. Did Disney bring any other famed experts as well? So what they would do is they would start to bring in all these different people who are really well known in the animal world, probably not people who are as famous as Jane Goodall. Obviously, Jane Goodall is one of the most famous animal experts of all time. People like her and Steve Irwin and you know, whatnot. They would all be like the top of the top. But a lot of the people who they did bring in would be people who are at the top of their field. So maybe not a lot of people would know exactly who they are, but in the animal world and the zoology world and anything that actually deals with the animal world, they were the top of the top people that they were actually bringing in to help them create this specific park and have it so they could actually create things so they would be the best of their abilities to make these animals be cared for the right way and be taken care of and have it so they would have a long, luscious life. I don't know if luscious is the right word, but that's the word we're sticking with. So when they started going through there, this is going to all kind of come back to Jane Goodall. So when they're going through here and having it so they had these different people come in, they started to go into more and more projects of how they were actually going to create this park. So this is going to bring us back to the question about Disney's Animal Kingdom, or I'm sorry, the Tree of Life. So when they were starting to think of how they could actually have a centerpiece in the center of the park, they went through so many different ideas. Now, if you have any, history about Disney, you probably have heard the term weenie before. A weenie is something that would draw a guest in to a specific spot. Walt Disney called it that because he used to hold a hot dog weenie in front of his dog to kind of draw his dog to him when he would come home every single day. So he had it so these weenies would draw people into the park. So things like Cinderella Castle, Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Spaceship Earth, the Tower of Terror, etc., etc., etc. So they needed to have a giant weenie, which is a funny way to say it. They needed to have it so there was a giant thing in the middle of the park that would draw people in and have it so it's this popular icon that everyone would associate with, such as Spaceship Earth or Cinderella Castle. And the idea that they came up with was, of course, the Ark from Noah's Ark. It was just the most natural. What? You don't know about that? It's the Tree of Life. I know it's the Tree of Life, but stick with me because we're not at that point yet. So originally the entire central area, Discovery Island, would originally be called the Genesis because, it would be the creation of life, kind of like the first book of the Bible. So that was the original idea, is we could be Genesis, and then in the middle, we're going to have it so the most famous story of all time about animals, Noah's Ark, would be in center form. So in the very center of the park, we would have a massive ark guests could go inside, they would have an attraction inside, and everyone could learn a little bit more about animals. However, they started to say, maybe that's just not the most popular way we could go about it. It could, have it so it could have some people who are offended saying, oh, well, now this is a religious park. And other people would be saying, oh, no, this is perfect. Like, it is a religious park. And it might just cause a little too much controversy. So they scrapped it. I know. So, of course, then we got the carousel. The carousel, what are you talking about? That's right. In the center of the entire park, they're going to build one of the world's largest carousels. It was going to be this massive carousel. It was going to be multi-layered. And in this carousel, guests could go onto all these different layers. And on the carousel, were going to be so many different animals that they could ride, representing all the different animals that are around the world. So it was perfect. It was giving guests a chance to go through and have it so they could learn all about the different animals and ride on the animals at the same time. Perfect. However, it is Florida, and having a carousel in the middle of the park, probably not the best idea because it might not always work because of the rain and weather and whatnot. So maybe probably not at all the best idea for an icon. So then they kind of put their heads together and they said, what is something that can represent the entire park that makes sense more than anything else? And they said, you know what? What if we just had a big tree there? So they said, that's a great idea. We'll have a massive tree, but we'll have it so it's the tree of life. We'll have it so it's filled with all these different carvings, all of these different reflections of different animals all around the world, which is going to bring us to our final two carvings that we're going to talk about on the tree of life. First one is going to go with Eric's story. I read Disney brought in Jane Goodall in to help with the chimpanzees. Did Disney bring other famed experts as well? So shortly before the park would actually open up, they would bring some of these famous people who've worked with animals into the park, including Jane Goodall. And while they were walking her around, they showed her the tree of life, and she said, this is amazing. I absolutely love it. However, there's no chimpanzees. And they realized, you're right, there are no chimpanzees. So at the base of the tree of life, right before you go into Disney's Animal Kingdom, the final animal that would be carved, well, at that point, there has been more animals carved since then, but the final animal that would be carved was a chimpanzee, and with it, there would be a plaque put next to it for Jane Goodall herself and her conservation efforts with the chimpanzees. There's a little plaque there talking all about that right before you enter into It's Tough to Be a Bug. So that is one of my favorite honorary carvings that we have on the Tree of Life. However, we have to talk about my favorite one of all, because when we're going through all these different storylines of Noah's Ark, a giant carousel, and then they get to the Tree of Life, the thing that Disney does best is storytelling. And they want to have it so there's a story behind every single thing around the park. And with the park, they came up with one of my favorite details that Disney's ever done. And I'm not saying that lightly. I really would 100% think this is in my top 10 details of all time that Disney's ever created. So if you are over at the Tree of Life Garden, at the Tree of Life Trails, when you're walking up right to the thing, there's one part where you can get to this little area that's a little alcove. And so it kind of looks like a little tunnel, but it's not a tunnel. But anyways, if you're in that little area, there's all these different little holes that are like yay big, where you can look through, and it would just be like that, where you can just kind of see parts of the Tree of Life in my eye. Woo! So there's all these different little small holes, and they all point to one animal, which brings us to our story of the Tree of Life. So the story of the Tree of Life goes something a little bit like this. A long time ago, the entire area around the Tree of Life is completely barren. Just think like you're in a desert. It seems lifeless. There's no plants. There's no water, but there's animals, and the animals are lost. They are dying. They need some sort of life. And they're all out in the middle of this desert, and all of a sudden, a giant seed falls from the sky and falls right on the ground. And all of a sudden, in the sky comes a booming voice, whether it's God or if it's something else. The booming voice says, the strongest animal can plant the seed and bring life to you all. So, of course, the mighty gorilla steps forward and says, I am the strongest animal of them all. I will lift up the seed and plant it and give life to everyone. And he grabs the seed and tries to pick it up, but he can't. So then all of a sudden the elephant steps forward. He goes, I am the mightiest animal of them all. I will pick up the seed. And he takes his trunk, he wraps it around the seed, and he tries to pick it up, tries to pick it up, but he can't. One by one, all the different animals keep on picking up the seed or attempting to pick up the seed, but no one can actually pick it up at all. And all of a sudden, there's a little voice in the back that says, excuse me, is there any way that maybe I can try? And everyone turns around and they see this animal and they start laughing. You think you can pick up the seed? There's no way. Do you see how little you are? There's no way that you can pick up the seed. There's no way that you're the strongest animal of all. And the animal says, just please let me try. So up steps the animal. He picks up the seed, and with complete ease, he picks it up, plants it to the ground, and up in the air pops the tree of life. And with the tree of life, if you noticed, I had someone recently tell me they didn't notice, there's 3 different waterfalls on the tree of life. So those waterfalls started falling down, and with that, the life started to grow everywhere around the island. So trees started popping up, water was everywhere, life was there to exist forever. And as a nod to the animal, if you look through all of those little holes in that little thing, you can see that all of them are pointing to the strongest animal of all, and that animal is the ant. So the ant is my honorary best carving that is found on the tree of life. Whew. That was a long story for one answer. For what are your top 3? We've literally gotten through 2 questions so far. The dinosaur is my favorite. The dinosaur is really cool. Okay, we'll go through some more questions, then we'll throw some more trivia out here as well. Is it true that the rocks where the lions are located on safari are air conditioned to encourage them to be visible to the guests? That is 100% true. So there are several different tricks that they have to help have it so you can actually see different animals around the entire park. Let's go through some of them right now. So one of the most famous ones is the lions. The lions will have it so there is a spot there that is air conditioned, so it encourages them to lay down and sleep at that location. Other spots that you can find this type of thing, if you go over on the Maharaja Jungle Trek, the very first animal that you'll see is going to be the Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon is typically in the same spot, and that's not because it's a statue, even though I heard people last time I was there, like a week ago, talking about how it's a statue. It's not a statue. I've seen him move. Or her. It's a her. But she will be laying on this same exact spot almost every single time you go there because it is a cooled down rock. So it helps regulate her temperature, and it's a more comfortable spot for her to be in. In addition to that, over on the Kilimanjaro safaris, there is a spot where you see the spotted wild dogs or the hyenas, depending on what time of day that you actually go there. They are also have an air-conditioned spot where they typically stay at because it helps them cool down their body. And also at the same time, if it's colder out, they will have it so these same things will heat up their bodies as well. So it all kind of helps draw these different animals in. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that you can find around the park. Those are like the 3 that always pop up in my head right off the bat. Yeah. Hello, good evening. That was long. That was a long answer, but okay, let's do another trivia question here. This one is not going to be about opening day attraction. This is going to be about our next phase of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is going to be shortly after the park opened up. What was the original name for Cali River Rapids? What was Cali River Rapids originally going to be called? Does anyone know? So Cali River Rapids, when it originally opened, it opened up as Cali River Rapids. But originally, when they were working on the attraction, they said, we're not going to call it Cali River Rapids. We're going to have a completely different name. And then they would switch it. What was the original name? You're going to get wet. You're going to get wet. Any other? It's not going to, you're going to be wet. We'll give 5 more seconds here. If anyone answers in the 5 seconds, I know you guys are on a slight delay, so maybe people just haven't gotten to it yet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was going to be Tiger River Run. So the idea was there was going to be this whole storyline about the tigers of the forest, the tigers that control the water. And then they realized that maybe having an attraction called Tiger River Run was going to be disappointing to guests because on the attraction, they would never actually be able to see tigers. They could see it over at the Maharaja Jungle Trek, but they would not be able to see it while on the actual attraction. So if you go on Kelly River Rapids still to this day, at the very top of the first hill, like the one that lifts you up, you can see like the 6 statues on the left and the right hand side. There's 3 on each side, of like an elephant and a crocodile and different things like that. If you get to the very top, you can see a tiger's face carved into the rock, and you can see it like his snout, his mouth, and his eyes, and then there's the water is rushing down his face. Really, really cool detail. But unfortunately, they just never the tiger made it in, but the rapids part made it in, but the actual tigers never made it in. So they switched it. So yeah, Tiger Rapids Run or Tiger River Run. I think both names were being discussed at one point or another. There we go. Eric just said it. Tiger Rapids Run. Okay, let's go through Eric's here. If Dino Land leaves, I will be sad because of all the amazing details over there, but this rumored Zootopia Land could be amazing. 100% agree with both of those. However, I wish they would just open up a Zootopia area someplace else in the park, because I think Dino Land has some of the best details anywhere on property. So let's talk a little bit about Dino Land USA. So Dino Land USA has a very rich history to it, and a lot of people just don't. It drives me crazy because people don't get the history of Dino Land USA and the storyline about Dino Land USA. And I personally think the story and the history and the details in Dino Land USA may be the best story, history, and details that Disney's ever done in the land. There is so much history in that land, so much story being told in that land that is right in your face that people just walk by without even realizing the story that's coming over. So the story of Dino Land USA, and we're not going to go into like the full thing because I've gone into a whole hour-and-a-half episode about this in the past, but we're going to I'll try to keep it short, but it's also me where I talk a lot. I literally just spent the last like 20 minutes talking about one answer. So the story of Dino Land USA is back in the 1950s. There was a fishing village. It's just like a small little town. And if you still go over to Dino Land USA today, you can find the actual fishing lodge that was where the spot was. It's where Restaurantosaurus is. So people used to go there all the time, and they would actually stay at this nice little fishing village. I mean, it was just a small little town and a small little inn. And people would go there for the weekend. They would go out to the river that's right down around the corner, and they would go fishing. Simple life, simple plans, all that other stuff. So eventually what would happen is 2 people were going out fishing, and one guy was just kind of, sitting there on the bank of the river, kind of poking away at the ground and kind of digging the hole. And while he was digging the hole, he came across something pretty hard. And then he started digging around, and he realized it was a bone. And not just any bone, but it was actually a dinosaur bone. So he let the people at the fishing village know. He said, hey, just let you know, they get that dinosaur bones out there. They said, there's dinosaur bones out there. What are you talking about? So they made some calls, and all of a sudden some paleontologists came in. When these paleontologists came in, all of a sudden everyone wanted to know more about this area. So it became a huge roadside attraction. People started to come from all around the country to see this location where dinosaurs were being discovered. So when this was happening, a few different things started to take place. Now, first off, right down the road, literally right around the corner, we have 2 people who owned a gas station named Chester and Hester. Chester and Hester were an older couple, and they had this little gas station, and their gas station never really did much business because they're in the middle of nowhere at this fishing village. So Chester and Hester realized that all these people started to come to the area, so maybe what they should do is they should make a little bit of money off of it. So the first thing they did was they kind of transformed their entire gas station into a massive gift shop that focused solely on dinosaur products. So people would come in and they would actually see all these different dinosaur things. They want to see the dinosaur bones. Hey, we can get some souvenirs right here at the local shop. So all of a sudden, business started picking up for Chester and Hester. Around the same time, a group of paleontologists would come into the area, and they would start having their own dig site. Now, this dig site would eventually become what is known as the Boneyard today. But when they started to go through that, they decided what they need to do was actually own a different area in the spot. Now, if you go back to original Dino Land USA, the spot where Triceratops Spin and Primeval World and that whole area of the park is, it actually used to have a paleontology area. Like, no joke. Like, you actually used to be able to go into tents and meet actual paleontologists who would go through and talk to you about different dinosaur bones and different types of dinosaurs, and kind of talk about how they actually created or how they figured out how dinosaurs were put together. That's besides the point. So they had it so there was this brand new area that they could have. Now, what they decided to do is they decided to buy up the fishing village. So they bought the fishing village and decided to have it so it would become the Dino Institute. So I know what you're thinking, the Dino Institute, no, that's where we can go on dinosaur. Yeah, you're right, but that's not in our history yet. So they had it so they bought up this area for the Dino Institute, and the Dino Institute, if you go into Restaurantosaurus, you take a left and you go into that main room. If you look all around the walls, you'll see so many different dinosaur products, and you'll also find the actual founder of the Dino Institute on one of the walls. In addition to that, one of my favorite little details there is right above the soda machine, there is a little film projector thing that you would pull down. And then if you look on the opposite side of the room, up on a balcony, you can find an actual film projector pointing towards it. Really cool. But anyways, so now they had it so they had their own little area. And so on the one side, they had their Dino Institute. On the other side, they started to house different young paleontologists to actually sleep in. So if you actually go into Restaurantosaurus, you go to the right-hand side. If you look up on the top part of this area, you can actually find a bunkhouse where the different college students would actually live at. And then, of course, around the corner, you get the hip joint, which is where they would hang out at still to this day. So anyways, as time would go on, Restaurantosaurus, aka at this point, the Dino Institute, started to become more and more popular. More and more people were actually coming to this area. When more and more people were coming to this area, they were making more and more money, and they decided to have it so they could fund their next big project. Now, their next big project would have it so they would actually find or create a thing called the Time Rover, which would actually transport you back to the days of the dinosaurs. So with this, they needed to have a brand new area. So they built a brand new Dino Institute, which is found still to this day all the way at the back portion of Dinoland USA. So when they're going through that, they built the brand new Time Rover, and it would allow people to actually go back in time and live in the days of the dinosaurs, aka countdown to extinction, or eventually what would become known as Dinosaur after the movie Dinosaur would come out in the year 2000. In the year 2000. Anyways, that's besides the point. So when all this stuff is going on, Chester and Hester are like, oh my gosh, now they have this brand new Dino Institute. We need to keep up with this. So at the same time, with Chester and Hester were going through and they were making all this money off of people who were just stopping at their gas station and buying these cheap little souvenirs, they said, you know what, we have a better idea, because not everyone's going to be able to afford to travel in the past and go on this Time Rover idea, because it's going to cost a lot of money to go on this Time Rover. So maybe what we should do is we should transform our entire parking lot into a fair, because fairs are cheap and a lot of people can actually go to the fair. So they created a brand new fair, which would be called Chester and Hester's Dinorama. So out at Chester and Hester's Dinorama, they originally had Triceratops Spin and Primeval Whirl. Now, if you ever went on Primeval Whirl when it was still around, may it rest in peace, I personally loved it. I thought it was a great attraction. It was like, you know, it would mess up your back for a week or two, but I thought it was a great attraction. If you ever went on Primeval Whirl in the original days, you would actually realize the Primeval Whirl was the exact same attraction as Dinosaur. So when you're actually on Primeval Whirl and you're going up the hill, you're going essentially into the past like it had in the, you know, Dinosaur. Then you would start going through and some asteroids would start coming down, like the start of Dinosaur. Then you would actually pass the exact same dinosaurs you would pass on Dinosaur until eventually you made your way towards the extinction, and you would have it so dinosaurs were trying to hitchhike a ride, kind of like Dinosaur. Anyways, so they had that, and then they also had Triceratops Spin. Eventually, they would open up a bunch of carnival games as well. If you're ever in this area, one of my favorite details is all of the different products that you can find in that area are things that you would actually find around a gas station. So we have different things like lead pipes. We have different screws that would be put on for the cars. And then even the Dinorama sign is made up of all different license plates that they would found from all around the country. So if you look at that, you have almost every single state is represented in that entire thing, including a lot of Florida, obviously, because you're in Florida. But Wisconsin's in there, California's in there, Minnesota's in there. So many different states are represented in that area, which I've always found to be quite amazing. So they built that entire thing to kind of do a little bit of competition with the Dino Institute around the corner. And that brings us up to current day Dino Institute and Dinoland USA. So that's like the big elaborate backstory for Dinoland USA. So yes, even though Eric didn't ask it, if Dinoland leaves, I will be sad because of all the amazing details over there. But this rumored Zootopia, yes, I would like a Zootopia area, but I'm just so bummed if Dinoland USA goes, because I think Dinoland USA is one of the greatest things of all time. Which is going to bring us to our next trivia question. There is, wait, let me figure it out. There are 4 lands that are currently at Disney's Animal Kingdom that were around on opening day. What were those 4 lands? There are 4 lands that are around at Disney's Animal Kingdom today that were around on opening day. What were those 4 lands? And then we'll do a follow-up question in just a minute here. But there are currently 4 lands. Yes, 4 lands that are around at Disney's Animal Kingdom on opening day that are. Oh, I'm sorry, 5. We'll maybe 5. But we'll do 4 cruise, or not. I'm reading some cruise. We're not doing the cruise trivia right now. We're doing Animal Kingdom trivia. So there are currently 4 lands that were around on opening day. I can argue 5th. You can maybe say 5th, but I have heard both things. I've heard some people say that's 4, and I've heard some people say 5. But what are the ones that are still around today? So one of those, you got 3 of them. But Camp Mini Mickey's no longer around, and one of those lands was actually not around on opening day. It would be opening up later on that year / 1999. Again, Camp Mini Mickey wasn't around, or is not around right now, but Oasis, Discovery Island, and Africa are 3 of the lands, and then the 4th one would be Dinoland USA. So Dinoland USA would be our final one. So all 4 of those lands would be around. So Camp Mini Mickey originally was supposed to not exist whatsoever, and it actually came out right at the very end, like right before the park would actually open up. They decided to bring in 2 brand new attractions that were really kind of on the fly of, okay, we need to kind of just have a brand new land to have something in this place. So originally they were going to have the idea of Beastly Kingdom. So Beastly Kingdom, I realize I don't know much about Animal Kingdom. The original idea was that so they were going to have this land called Beastly Kingdom. Now, Beastly Kingdom would have different things like a dueling dragon ride where the 2 dragons would go past each other, a unicorn ride, and then like a nice gentle boat ride. Now, originally, these lands would be created for Disney's Animal Kingdom. 2 of them, or 2 of those attractions, actually would end up going over to Universal. Some of the Imagineers would actually take those ideas that they created and bring them over and sell them to Universal instead. Caused a lot of chaos. So if you ever did that dueling dragon ride over at Disney's or at Islands of Adventure at Universal, that was actually originally planned for Disney's Animal Kingdom. It just wasn't in the budget, but they still needed to have another land for opening day. So they came up with a very simple land called Camp Mini Mickey. Now with Camp Mini Mickey, they had 2 different shows. One of them was Pocahontas and Her Forest Friends with Sprig. Sprig was the greatest character that's ever been created by Disney. I still think he's like the funniest little animatronic. He's like, I'm Sprig. Every time we talk about this show, I tell people to look it up. So please do yourself a favor and look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube someplace. It is absolutely hilarious. It's called Pocahontas and Her Forest Friends, but Sprig is like the star of the show. Every time I used to watch that on my college program like once a week because it cracked me up so much. I just love Sprig. I think he's just one of the funniest characters. So yeah, that, and then the other show that they kind of created on the fly is ironically the most popular, as voted by guests, show in all of Walt Disney World, which is the Festival of Lion King over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So Festival of Lion King was not even around. Like it wasn't even like a huge planned show. It was just kind of thrown together at the very last time. Now, Asia, which was mentioned, Asia was originally going to be planned to be an opening day land, but they just didn't have enough time to completely finish it. So if you look at opening day maps, there's actually nothing over there. Like it just shows kind of like a little bit of a path. And then the bird show, Flights of Wonder, would actually be considered part of Discovery Island at the time. And then the Maharaja Jungle Trek would open up just shy after the park would open up. And it was considered originally part of Discovery Island, but eventually very quickly became part of Asia. along with the Cali River Rapids as the two attractions that were over, or the three attractions that were over there, were those three. And then if you ever did the park before Expedition Everest, you're in luck, because do you not remember? Oh, not I'm saying like you don't remember. No, you don't remember. If you ever went to Disney's Animal Kingdom before the safari, or I'm sorry, not Expedition Everest open, the whole path that goes around and eventually goes past the theater in the wild where we have Finding Nemo the musical, that didn't exist. Like, it was just like there was no bridge back there. It just the path just ended, and then you have to turn back around. Which brings us to our next fun fact. So we have the theater in the wild, which is where that is now. Before that was Tarzan Rocks. Before that was the Jungle Book show, which didn't last for very long. The theater in the wild is the only attraction, still to this day, that is technically not belong to a specific land. If you look at the maps, it will say Dinoland USA, but technically, according to the Imagineers, it does not actually belong to a specific land. It is literally just a theater in the wild. And a big part of the reason why it got the name Theater in the Wild is because at one point, in order to get to it, you literally had to go into the wild. Like, you had to go out of all the different lands to get to this theater that was out of reach. Like, it was out of nowhere. There was no path that went past it. So unless you were like purposefully going out there to go see the show, it was just a theater out in the wild. So I've always loved that about the park too, that you would have that. Now we do have, like I said, we have Finding Nemo the musical over there now. Before that, we had Tarzan Rocks. Tarzan Rocks, as pointed out by my little brother when he was like probably like 13 years old, he was like, it's like the coolest rock concert you'll ever go to. He had never, I don't think he's ever been to a rock concert. So Tarzan Rocks is his only way to compare that to anything. But it really did feel like a rock concert. It was like the coolest show. And they got rid of it, and then we got Finding Nemo the musical. So what have we not touched on? We've touched on almost everything in the park, right? Have we touched it? Are we missing anything? We've been kind of like all over the place. Who has any more questions out there? Who has a question? Otherwise, we'll throw out another trivia question. Oh, I know what we haven't talked about. Okay, so when the park opened up, when the park opened up, there was one section that's still around to this day, but on the map it would be labeled. And actually, now I'm curious: is it labeled like this now, or I don't know if it is or not. It kind of is. Like, it's still saying it's part of a different land, but when it opened up, it was kind of considered its own land, but not really. This land, quote unquote land, more like an area, was going to be named after a Disney character, and the only other Disney characters that had their own lands named after them were Mickey and Minnie, and Mickey had two. He had Mickey's Toontown Fair, and then eventually you would have Camp Minnie Mickey, and then Camp Mickey Minnie, because Minnie was there too. Who was the other animal, and he still has this section today, who was the other animal that was found there? And we'll go to this question in just a second here as well. And we'll even open up the map here. It will be, wait, where is it? Oh, it's right on my finger. Rafiki's Planet Watch. So Rafiki's Planet Watch would be found at the very top of the entire park. It would be, actually, it technically is part of Africa right now. At one point, it was considered its own land, and the only way they could get to this land was by taking the train up there. But Rafiki's Planet Watch, if you've never been there, then you're missing out. There's a lot of really cool things there. Still to this day, you can do animation class. You can go see actual operations being done on animals, like actually like the veterinarians working with the animals and making sure that they're healthy and doing surgeries and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a petting zoo, and there's also one of the coolest bathrooms in the entire park. I love this bathroom so much because if you go to the bathroom in the men's room, there, I don't know about the women's room, but above the urinals, there is a thing with trivia questions about animals peeing. And it says, for the answers, go wash your hands. And then when you're washing your hands, there's the answers to the questions above the sinks. I think it's a really cool way to get people to wash their hands. But also, while you're in that area, there are also so many different hidden Mickeys that are found in that area throughout all of the conservation station. So when you're in there, I've heard that there's over 100. I think the person who told me that might be exaggerating because I don't think there's that many, but I think there's probably close to it. There's a lot of different hidden Mickeys there. In addition to that, there used to be the Sounds of the Rainforest with Grandmother Willow, where you could actually go into a room, put on the headphones, and listen to it. That room is still there, and it drives me crazy that it's not open for the public to go to. Like, it's literally right there, but you just can't go experience it anymore, which it breaks my heart. Okay, so what was our question here? If anyone else has any questions, throw your questions in the comments. We're going to answer a few more questions here before we wrap up. Unless we got some more subscribers, then we'll go through and answer the questions. How many animals were brought over from Discovery Island? Almost every single one of them. Now, Discovery Island and Disney's Animal Kingdom would overlap a year. So while they were finalizing everything at Disney's Animal Kingdom, perfecting everything, getting all the habitats, they would still have it so Discovery Island was going to be open over at Bay Lake. So for those of you guys who don't know, over at Bay Lake, in the middle of the lake, there's this massive island. The island used to be an actual place that guests could go to and learn about animals, and was called Discovery Island. So on Discovery Island, you can actually go out there and you can find different animals out there. You can learn about these different animals, and they had different types of birds. They had a little aviary out there, and then other local animals as well. So when the park would actually open up, they would bring most of these animals over. And then as the park was getting more and more accustomed to, they would bring a few last animals over as well. So it's kind of like a learning process for the creators of Disney's Animal Kingdom to kind of get used to exactly how they were going to run everything. So they just slowly started to bring the different animals in. Now, in addition to that, speaking of slowly bringing animals in, if you go over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, still to this day, there are currently 48 different animals that have been around since opening day. But even all of those animals have been around for even longer for the most part. So they started bringing animals into this area back in 1996 was when the first animals actually arrived, because they wanted to have it so these animals would be completely accustomed to their living situations before all the guests would actually arrive. So in 1996, while the construction was going on for Disney's Animal Kingdom, the different animals would actually be there, living there, and starting to get accustomed to their brand new life at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Whew. Okay, any other questions out there? I'm going to take a drink of my water here because I've been talking a lot. Any other questions out there before we wrap up tonight's show? Or let's see if we go into extra innings tonight. Right now, we are still at 2,772. So let's take one or two more questions here before we wrap up, and then we'll check again and see if we have any others. Any last questions about Disney's Animal Kingdom? Will the Yeti ever move again? Let's talk about this, because this is one of those things that I feel so bad for the Imagineers because they constantly get this question. I have been at more different D23 or Imagineer talks or whatever where this question comes up. They'll have this question, and the other question they always get is about the People Mover over in Disneyland, if they're either one of those going to come back. So let's talk a little bit about the Yeti. Now, the Yeti, the reason that the Yeti is not working right now is mainly due to the fact that they don't want to kill anyone. So the problem with the Yeti is when they created the foundation for the Yeti, there was an error. It's the simplest way to put it. There was an error, and because of that, when the Yeti used to swipe down, does anyone remember when the Yeti used to actually like reach out? I experienced it once, way back in the day, like when the ride first opened up. But he used to reach out, and every time he would reach out, he would move like just a little bit further away from his foundation. And so because of that, when you have it so you're constantly swiping throughout every single day, every 30 seconds, eventually your foundation is going to come out and you're going to fall on some guests. So as soon as they started to realize that they were having some technical difficulties with the Yeti, and then they started to realize that they had the foundation problems with the Yeti, there were two choices they could have. One, they could go to Disco Yeti, which is the Yeti that we all know and love today, where they would go through and have it so it went through. Or they could actually deconstruct and get rid of the entire attraction to then put it back together. Literally, Eric is saying that right now. I asked Rody about it, and he said they would have to deconstruct the whole attraction. That is exactly, yeah. So in order to do it, they would literally have to tear apart Expedition Everest to then create Expedition Everest again, because that is how bad the foundation is there. And that is also because the Yeti is actually part of the foundation of the entire attraction. So in order to get that Yeti out, you actually have to get rid of the actual attraction too, because he is legit part of the building structure of that building, which is crazy when you really think about it. It's absolutely crazy. We used to go through, and on my college program was when Expedition Everest was being built, and you couldn't get right up to the construction, obviously, but you could watch it from Flame Tree Barbecue. And my roommate Kyle and I, we used to go down there once a week on our days off, and we would watch them do the construction. And I remember seeing, you could see the Yeti early on, but you couldn't really tell what it was. Like, you just see like this figure way off in the distance. And then eventually, like, they started releasing more and more stuff about it, and they're like, oh, it's the Yeti. And that's what we can see. But yeah, so it's not like other attractions where they bring those audiometronics in later on. The Yeti's legit. Like, I think it's his legs are part of the actual thing. Like, I think his upper torso might not be, but it's the fact that every time he would move, it'd be his whole body is moving forward. So even the legs that are part of the entire foundation are part of the foundation. Like, there's no way to get around it. Okay, any other questions before we wrap up here? We'll take one more question out there before we wrap up tonight's episode. I love Disney's Animal Kingdom. I think Disney's Animal Kingdom is just such a well-themed park that does not get enough love, in my opinion. I love my new mug. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I think it's so cool. Well, that's not an Animal Kingdom question. No, I don't wear any fancy clothes ever. You guys should know that by now. I literally wear a Run Disney shirt, everything else every single day. You saw working on your honeymoon. Ah. Back when you got married on my birthday. You didn't invite me to your wedding. Eric's anniversary literally is my birthday. Oh, any other questions out there? Haha, you missed the start of the show then. That was how we started the show, was with the Pumbaa bucket. I did get a Pumbaa bucket. If he talked from the back of his head, he would say, Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Okay. So we're going to wrap up this bad boy right here. As always, tonight's show is sponsored by It's All About the Mouse Travel Jazz Hands. Make sure you stop by it'sallaboutthemousetravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All their services are absolutely positively 100% free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. I'd like to thank everyone out there for joining us once again this week. Please keep on spreading the word about the Wednesday show and From Screen to Theme. Invite anyone and everyone to join the groups over on Facebook, or if you have a friend who's not subscribed yet, make sure you have them subscribe as well. We are getting closer and closer to our goal of 3,000. So complete side story. So this whole month was doing terrible on YouTube. Like the video views were up, which was amazing, but the subscriber count was like literally like maybe one subscriber a day, which is like in March and February, it was going up like 5 to 10 a day. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then March, it just kind of like stopped. And then at the start of this month, I had one up. So I was up 2, went up another one. Then I lost one. Then I lost one. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at 0 still. And then over the last few days, it's been going on a huge upward stream. And we are now up to like, I think it's been 52 in the last like 7 days. So keep spreading the word, invite all of your friends. And yeah, I appreciate it. I can't wait for the Animal Kingdom book. If you're not a Patreon pal, make sure you become a Patreon pal so I have more time to write my books. And that way Eric can get his Animal Kingdom book as well. So yes. We need Patreon pals in order to do that. Or if you're not already subscribed on Instagram too, you can subscribe for $1 over on Instagram, and you also get a bonus picture every single day. So you can do that as well. There you go, Eric. I'm selling it for you. I'm trying to get there, and then I don't have to go to my job, and I can focus all of my time on videos and writing, and still not finding a girlfriend because that's what Eric wants me to do. But as always, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you guys had a great time. Speaking of books, if you have not ordered a copy of A Closer Look Yet, or A Closer Look Yet, or A Closer Look Yet, make sure you go visit the Shop Now button. And until next time, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Bye-bye now. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My cheeks are just killing me. I just can't stand this kind of